Hey, it's Huck. And as alarming as the title of this video may seem, it's nevertheless the hard, cold truth. Republicans are deadlier, particularly to Americans, than any terrorist organization or all the terrorist organizations combined. And so I came to this thought really last night as I was watching this horrific, apparently terrorist attack in Manchester, England. And I started thinking about what Republicans are doing in Congress as we speak with not only our health care, but now that they've introduced their new Republican budget. So let me break this down just a little bit to help you better understand. I was actually going to do a video, first of two. In fact, I've already recorded it and I'm working on it. I've shot it with my real camera, and so it's going to take me a little while to get it edited on my computer. But within the next couple of days, I'm going to introduce both of these videos, and they're going to talk. The first one, what I'm working on now, is centered around the ways in which Republicans have worked really since its inception on how to undermine and sabotage the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. And then the second video, which I promised a few weeks ago, that I also hope to put up hopefully by early next week, will be, I don't know, maybe about 10 ways. I'll try to limit to about 10 constructive steps that Congress could take that would easily fix Obamacare once and for all, make it more affordable, get the high costs and deductibles down for those who are suffering from that, make the markets much more stable, get younger people, healthier people into the risk pools to make it more affordable. All of the steps that should be done and could be done at, reasonably little more cost than it is already costing. However, I decided to step back because of the news, like I say, in the last, 12 hours or so. And as I was watching, the wall-to-wall, 24-hour-a-day coverage now of this, again, this horrific event, it dawned on me that the real terrorists are Republicans, particularly to Americans. The health care bill that was originally conceived by the Trump administration that got a CBO score, Trump Care version 1, was estimated to drop as many as 14 million people from coverage the first year, and an additional 10 million for a total of about 24 million within the decade. The new version, the one that the House actually passed and now is sitting in the hands of the Senate, is actually much, much worse. And while it hasn't received a CBO score as of yet, there are senators like Mike Lee of Utah, Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania, who are working very, very hard to make it even worse than what it was when it came to them. And I guess the easiest way to illustrate this is to look first at
the language to make sure that they had
there's my TV going on.
Accuracy and precision.
Let me put that on mute for a moment. There's an organization called the Urban Institute. And they actually had figured that the Republican AHCA bill, the American Health Care Act, as they title it, would actually result in a loss of coverage of about nearly 30 million people over the next 10 years. And frankly, I believe that's a lot more likely score we'll see from the CBO. I think they came up with a 29.8 million people. And the reason is this. Unlike the first version, the second version of the bill actually would strip pre-existing conditions as a guarantee. States would have the option to offer policies that did not offer full coverage, would give insurance companies the option to drop folks who, like me, have a pre-existing condition. And that's millions and millions of folks. By some estimates, as many as even 40% of some populations, some state populations. Because again, pre-existing condition doesn't just mean that you once had cancer or diabetes. It's so vaguely it's so vaguely described in these policies that it can cover anybody that has ever been raped, anybody that's ever had a severe illness, even if they've fully recovered. So it's a lot of people that suddenly could find themselves completely out of options as far as getting insurance. And at any rate, the Bernie Sanders suggested as many as 36,000 people could die as a result of anything like this healthcare policy actually being passed as a replacement for Obamacare. And he got that statistic from an organization called, from the New England Journal of Medicine. And part of their study goes back to research that has suggested that for every 455 people who lose Medicaid coverage or lose insurance coverage, for every 455 people that lose their insurance coverage, at least one person can be expected to die prematurely as a result. So if you extrapolate, name your figure, whether it's the 24 million people originally suggested by the first CBO estimate, or the 30 million people now suggested by the Urban Institute, we are talking roughly, in excess of 45,000 people who will die as a result of lost coverage. Take a look at what the Republicans have just introduced with their budget proposal. This is Trump's budget, just released by his Office of Budget and Management Secretary Mulvaney, who's a real piece of work. They are suggesting an additional $600 billion in cuts to Medicare or Medicaid. That's in addition to the $880 billion worth of cuts to Medicaid that are in the healthcare proposal. That's right. That's over 1.4, almost $1.5 trillion worth of cuts to the poorest and neediest folks in America. Try to add to that, then, The new budget also calls for $72 billion in cuts to Social Security disability recipients, folks like me who are unable to work due to their health. People are going to die in large numbers as a result of these policies. You know, it may sound crazy that Republicans are the real terrorists, but the last year we have real evidence. In other words, all of the numbers are in. In 2015, terrorism around the world peaked. That was the peak year. There were over 11,700 separate terrorist incidents that year, resulting in a little more than 31,000 casualties, deaths. That works out to something like about 2.5 deaths per terrorist incident. And I know these incidents, like we witnessed last night in Manchester, England, and some of the more gruesome attacks, such as happened in Nice, France, or down in Orlando at the nightclub. You know, they get a lot of attention because so many people were killed or injured. But when you add it all up worldwide, in the worst year on record, approximately 31,000 people died as a result of terrorism, and that's worldwide. We're talking somewhere between 36,000 and 45,000 Americans dying simply because of Republicans' health care bill, should it become law. And we're not even talking about some of the other things, like I say, that are in this budget. The massive cuts to all of the other, welfare programs, caring for the poor and the sick. The cuts to Meals on Wheels, the cuts to food stamps. We're not talking about the long history of Republicans' infatuation with, guns in America and the 33,000 deaths per year we see from firearms in America, which is catastrophic on any scale. Republicans are the true terrorists. And I would urge you to watch my next two videos. Like I say, I hope to have my first one illustrating some of the myriad ways that Republicans have sought all along to try to destroy Obamacare and undermine its effectiveness, really since it first became law in 2010. And like I said, I'm going to follow that up hopefully early next week with the second video, which are the steps that Congress could, if they chose, to strengthen Obamacare so that it works better and more affordable, not just for those people who are buying their policies on the exchanges or taking advantage of the Medicare expansion, Medicaid expansion, but also for everyone that has a health insurance policy, regardless of where you get it, whether you buy it yourself or whether you get it through your employer. So I thank you for watching, and I look forward to posting this first of these two videos within the next day or two. And again, my heart goes out to all of the victims of terrorism around the world. And this is in no means meant to minimize the horrific actions and the terrible ordeal that so many people are enduring as we witness, these terrible events. But it's also time that we get some perspective on what's going on here at home with the Republican Party and our current president, and to minimize the danger they pose to the health and livelihoods of all of us would be the real danger, I believe. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you again within the next few days. Have a great day, everyone.